But the crowd was quite quiet, it seemed, not totally involved. And that's the question from Mayan Zilberstein. What do you make of the Miami crowd? And did they know, do you think, that it was a semifinal and that there was all this on the line, Brendan?
It's a good point. Mayan is the best one of us to answer that question, though. He was in the stands, albeit he was, in the corner. They do this intentionally to give the visiting supporters, the traveling support, the worst seats. But the worst seats for atmosphere judgment are the press box behind glass, because you really can't capture it. I know this is something that Manuel Veth talked about a lot and talked about with us that night. And if you see Europe or the World Cup, even in Qatar, they take seats that are at the halfway line and make that the press seat outside. It's supposed to be outside, and you really lose that when you're behind glass. And at least it wasn't as bad as BMO, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, it was hard to hear, but to that point, I think this does lead to a very interesting discussion that's going to come about. It definitely it feels like Inter Miami is kind of wasting the potential of what they have here with Lionel Messi and all these big stars. And I just think their decisions continue to show that, right? Like just their squad building, even just you can see the vibe. It's so weird because in a sense it should be extremely exciting that South Florida, the greatest player to lace up his boots and play the game, is out here on a regular basis and the crowd's not full. And you go around, there's just not a buzz about what's going on with this Inter Miami team. And it doesn't help when, for fans who have been dedicated and have stuck in, the true MLS sickos, the players that were so fun to watch in the first few years have been traded away. And it feels like they've just been discarded. And like any sense of continuity has just been thrown out because these stars are here. And I can't help but think when Jesper Sorensen calls it a circus, it really has become that in a certain way. Like it's fitting because you joke about it, but okay, it was cool to see the circus come to town, to see it on the other side. But for us to be there at Chase Stadium, you realize like, oh, the circus goes the other way, and that's not good. Like something like this, it should be a bit more. If it's going to be a circus, you want more Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas residency type beat, where it's it's something entertaining, it's something you travel to, it's sustainable, it's beautiful. And it just feels like it's maybe it's the temporary stadium, but it just feels like there's a whole like performer way past his prime, no half empty seats, etc. That vibe about it. And I think what Miami's done to build it, you really do wonder. And there was a very interesting question, like, what does this look like when Messi leaves? And from a Miami perspective, I'd have to be genuinely worried that what they're doing is just going to lead to an absolute disaster when he does leave, because he's the one kind of propping it up and making it look way better than it is.
I mean, having a stadium in the city and to get, I think, a different population than Broward County, you could potentially build a real fan base. But baseball feels like something that should be big in Florida. Obviously, it's big for spring training. The weather's great all the time. The Marlins are the smallest market team in Major League Baseball. It is very difficult in that market to run a consistently revenue-generating sports franchise. It's why MLS didn't come back there for a long time. It's why it was away for a long time. The only way for it to get to this profitable level was to have superstars involved, which started with David Beckham, and then the superstars that they purchased in the lead up to building this into a brand that Messi would want to come to. I still think it's remarkable that Messi plays in that stadium, which is shocking. They'll build a new place, they'll call it the place that Messi built, but when he leaves, they'll be lucky to get Robert Taylor back to finish Messi. I don't think that would be I think that would be a stretch for them. And also, I didn't think I would expect to say that last night, that, man, if only they had the Finnish Messi to the Finnish Neymar to come off the bench, maybe Miami could get in this game against Vancouver.
Yeah, I will say that their supporter section was quite loud and vibrant, and it looked like a vibe throughout the night. But the general fan looked pretty out of it, and there wasn't much of a vibe outside of that.
A lot of Messi kids, like,
and
to be expected.
And the introduction, and maybe Brendan, you can comment on this quickly as somebody that's hyped up a crowd before. When they were reading out the starting lineup, it was the regular announcements, and then it was giving the Messi praise, the Messi from the PA and the hype man in the stadium, which Alex and I were chuckling at in the stands, because it just seemed like very, like, for lack of a better word, glazing of Messi for the home side.
Yeah, like it felt manufactured or fake, or like
Very
it should have been
fake.
more. You
Very,
wanted
very fake.
fireworks and
It's a
it's
football club. Like it's you know,
yeah.
it's just I always think of parallels. Like just imagine you're at a Whitecaps game and they're announcing everyone, and then it's like, and your captain Ryan Gold, and it's like they start singing a song, and then fireworks came on, like just because that's what happened. It was like the song, there was fireworks that came on for Messi's name. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that if you're the Whitecaps, I think there's a part of me that feels like, wouldn't you want to be at that point with a player that like everyone goes nuts for? That is the fireworks worthy hype player, hype
But that
machine.
stuff
I'm
happens,
kind of I'm kind of torn.
that stuff happens organically. I went and saw Lionel
Yeah,
Messi at the Canu in 2019, and you don't have to like. It's very
yeah,
clear how important he is to that club. And grant, this is again a very historic institution, a club that's been around long before Lionel Messi, and that will be around long after, with stars before and after, as we're seeing now with Lamine Yamal. Like if they just did a great job of, it was Barcelona. You're going to watch Barcelona. Messi's a key part of that. The fans know when he does magic, they
mhm.
chant, they stand up, they sing. But yeah, there's a certain element of it with Miami that felt very, very fake. And I think that's where it lines in, because again, it should be all about the club. It should be all about growing the club. With Barcelona, Messi is left and they're still filling the stadiums. They're still winning trophies. When Messi's left, are all those Messi shirts going to come back? Like, are they? Like, that's a genuine question they're going to have to be answered.
Yeah. That's the unique thing about MLS, though, right? And you look at some of the big clubs from the early years who would love to get back to that level. The New England Revolution, DC United. I think that's what's unique to MLS, where it has grown this much since 2007 because of a player. And it has continued to grow because of players in certain markets. And we see teams like the Chicago Fire made Xherdan Shaqiri the highest paid player in the league, because it's a player that keeps you at the top of the sports section or top of relevancy in a very crowded sports market in most of these places. And that's just where it's at. I think what's unique, what a great case study will be for this Miami project when it eventually crumbles, be it at the end of this season or if they get one more season out of Messi and bring some new friends, is what is the in-between balance? Because Toronto FC are actually a good part of this case study. Without Insigne, you don't get Bernardeschi. But could they have just got Bernardeschi? Because they got Sebastian Giovinco before, and we kind of saw how that worked. As you assembled a roster around a player of that caliber who comes at that age, we weren't talking about it being a retirement league. Yes, there were people saying that Seba Giovinco came for the money, but I think that there'll be an adjustment to what that new model is, where it's not just unknown South Americans and it's not just catering to one corner of your community and rallying up one fan base. There does have to be a balance, and just going for old big name stars and their friends is not the winning recipe.
Well, so just to hop in, last point for me on this, not to drag this out, but I think we've already seen that transition. It's LAFC and it's the Columbus Crew. Those two teams have built deep, sustainable roster with great players across the board, with stars. But you go to LAFC, Denny Bouanga is not plastered all over everywhere, and his face is everywhere. Ditto with Giroud or Lloris, and heck, Giroud isn't even an important part of LAFC. You went to Columbus when they won all those trophies with Cucho Hernandez, same thing. They had a deep roster, they had stars. I think that's the big thing in MLS. It's beyond. I think for a lot of teams, the vanity project, and I think teams are realizing it. Because Chicago with Shaqiri was a great example. That flopped. How many of these success stories have flopped? TFC. And the reality is, in all of those cases, is because they went for the 2007 approach. Bring in a star, the rest will follow. No, I think this is a good sign of how competitive the league is. And I think that's where the Whitecaps have done so well to step up, because they've gone and built the team instead of chased the stars. And that's led them to this position.
I think what we're also learning in MLS these days is you build the roster first and then the big star, whether that's an aging one, whether that's, a prospect that you can build up, a highly rated U22 player, that can be the finishing piece, the piece that turns you from a good team into a contender. I look at a team, like the Columbus Crew, for example. They've brought in those finishing pieces over their time under Wilfred Nancy, and that's elevated them to MLS Cup, Leagues Cup, making the Champions Cup final last year. I think of what the Chicago Fire might do this offseason or this summer, because they have two very good players and a very good attack, but they're missing a secondary striker, and that's what Hugo Kuipers needs. And maybe they do bring in, a Jamie Vardy, a Thomas Muller. I wrote about those two names over on Sports Illustrated. That it'll be interesting to see whether those kind of players that could have been that key piece to kind of make the difference before, the Jermaine Defoes of the world, are actually the final piece, not the starting piece now, Brendan.
Jamie Vardy is in a different spot, I think, in that assessment, though, right? Because he is someone like a Giroud, where yes, you could put the poster up or not put the poster up, but he's unlikely to be as important a driving force. And he might put the ball in the back of the net. Robbie Keane did that for the Galaxy longer than I think a lot of people expected, kind of carry that team. But I think MLS has passed that where you wouldn't want that. What I'm interested to see, and what the hot rumor has been as we record tonight on Thursday evening, is that Greg Berhalter's Chicago Fire are in the lead to get Kevin De Bruyne. And in Chicago, at that stadium, I think that's an interesting one, because that's still someone that I think can contribute more, has more in the tank than Messi at this point in his career, but not someone that's as big of a general draw. But I think a draw of enough in a city like that, that's a little bit more than Bastian Schweinsteiger when they grabbed him, to be able to, as you say, build the team around some very notable players and a couple of very talented players, but guys that have a lot left in the tank and can contribute to a project for a little bit.